The curved basket is basically the same technique as doing a heart shape. With the exception of a heart, you're doing a V. With the curve, you're doing an S shape. For this basket, I'm starting with a 6-inch section of rope. That's when I do my first turn that you see coming up here. Once I start the second row, this is where I'll start the bend. Now that I've completed the top bend, I'm basically bending the rope or twisting it the opposite direction to do the bottom half of the S. And then you just complete it. You come around the corner, and then you'll still hold everything in place to keep that good S shape. Once you've completed a full round, you no longer have to hold it in position to form that S shape. You should be able to just start, stitching through like you would normally. You just have to take your time going around the corners to make sure that your stitches don't miss. I'm going to do a few rounds now, and I'll pick up explaining what I'm doing when I get past all this point. I'm about to do a fabric change here, and when I do a fabric change for a curved basket, I like to do it on one of the long ends. I just think it looks nicer, and it's not as noticeable as doing it on the side. So here I'm going to do a thread color change. I'm kind of like a stickler about that. If I'm changing the color of my fabric, I always change the thread to match it. I just think that looks so much nicer when the thread isn't distracting from the actual, color of the fabric. So at this point, I have a good solid base, so I'm going to start working my sides. So as you can see, I'm starting like just to lift the base of the basket up a little bit so I can start to develop, the sides. And the nice thing about the curve is they go like a nice easy slope up when you have this kind of a shape. So I'm not going to talk over this part because I'm going to be doing a few rounds, and I'll pick up, for the next section. So at this point, I'm switching back to the black fabric now that I've done a few rounds, and I'm starting to develop the side. I already changed my thread back to black. But I always have my start-stop spots. I always try to keep them in the same area. That way it's really consistent. It looks so much nicer when you have that one area that you have, you start the different colors of fabric rather than it being distracting and kind of just picking a random place. I just kind of prefer to have everything right in the same area. So I'm going to do a few rounds again. So I'm going to stop talking until I get to the next section for you guys. So I've done a few rounds with the black and I really liked how it looked at this point. So I'm switching back to the red fabric. And as you can see, I have my start-stop spot. It's really pretty much right across from where I left off with the black. So here I'm going to switch my threads again back to the red. So I'm going to do a couple more rounds here to finish this basket off, and I'll pick up when I get to the end. So I like this as the end spot, and what I usually do is I take my rope to my start stop and I cut it at that point. And then I'll take it and I cut a wedge, like just so that it kind of has like a sharp, you can see this is what I'm doing right here, just making it into like a little wedge. And then it smooths it out. I've had a lot of people tell me that they can't see where I ended my baskets because there's no bulge there. It's just like a smooth finish. And so because it's this sharp little finish, as you can see, I'm kind of going to take it around a little bit, and then I bring the rope up and I do a ever so slight overlap that it kind of like is flush with the top of the basket. And then I'll do a round. I'll just go around to like seal the top basically with stitching over the top of the basket, if that makes sense for you. I hope it does. At this point, I trim away the little tail of fabric by going right up against the zigzag stitch. The curved basket, when it's finished, is really a lot of fun to look at and it's fun to make. So I hope you guys might consider it and feel free to send me any questions.